So, as Sonia has already said, the topic of my talk is problems of description of the Mongolian curative marker in typological perspective. But before I start talking about the problems, as I happen to be the first speaker at this conference to focus on the Halkha-Mongolian language, I first would like to give some general information about the Mongolian curative. Well, the language I'm going to talk about is modern Mongolian, also referred to as Halkha. It's spoken in Mongolian proper, where it bears the status of the official language of the state. And the curative meaning in Mongolian is mostly expressed by the morpheme gui, this one, which traces back to the Proto-Mongolian word ugei, meaning not having, without, less, or not. This ancient word ugei, having transformed into ugui, still exists in the modern language together with the morpheme gui, and it can be used as a noun meaning lack or absence, for example, mini would in my absence, or as an adjective with such meanings as non-existent, poor, absent. It can be used as no answer if the speaker negates the action. In some other cases, the word bish is used. It can add derivational suffixes and form such a noun as uguitent, which means a person not having something or deprived of something. Such an adjective as uguite, meaning poor, and such verbal stems as uguitech or uguisech, oguilech, ogurech, uguidech, uguiskech. So there are quite many, and these verbal stems can serve as a base for further derivation. The word ugui is an extremely interesting topic for discussion, but since the time is limited, I have to proceed to the morpheme gui. In Mongolian, it's used as a general negative particle and can be added both to the absentees if it conveys the curative meaning, and to participles. Participles in Mongolian are quite often used to denote actions and serve as predicates in a sentence, as in the example here. Be yavaku means I won't go, so yava here is a participle.
Аня, прошу прощения, можешь включить полноэкранный режим, чтобы лучше было видно?
Just a second. Yeah, now it works, because before that, for some reason, it didn't work. Yes. So, given further information on the Mongolian curative, I should say that the curative marker GU can add case and or possessive suffixes if the combination absentee plus GU is substantivized, like in these examples below. So the instrumental case suffix is used especially frequently. The combination absentee plus GUI can be followed with a topic marker or a conditional particle bol. For example, Nargui bol huiten, without the sun is cold. An absentee can have a plurality marker in front of the curative marker. I found it in such words as navchesgu, without leaves. So here S is the plurality marker, and hugdutgu, which means without children. And in my example, this hugdutgu was like a childless person, which is quite interesting. The curative marker can be added to proper nouns, common nouns, personal nouns. I'll talk about this later. It's absolutely productive. speaking about the syntactic function of the Mongolian curative marker, as a secondary predicate, it can be depictive and cannot be resultative. It can serve as an adverbial dependent. It can serve as an attribute. It can be a predicate and a part of a predicate, like in these examples here. If the combination absentee plus GUI is not substantivized, it can be used headless. The morpheme GUI is not a dedicated curative marker, as it is used for negation of actions expressed with participles together with the expression of the curative meaning. An absentee can be personal, animate and inanimate, non-specific, definite and indefinite. And so here's the list of the possible semantic roles. I'm sorry that I didn't give all the examples, but they're just too many. And if you're interested, you can ask questions, and during the question time, I can show you the examples which are interesting to you. So an absentee cannot denote participant exception in clauses of any kind. It is not normally used to denote addition of a participant or circumstantial situation. In this case, negative converb GUI is used, which is clearly diachronically connected with GUI, or rather UGEI, but synchronically it's not one and the same thing. There are no special restrictions on both on the type of the anchor and on the type of the predicate. The curative marker GUI it can be used with absentees involved both in the permanent and temporary situations. The same sentences are used to describe the absence of the absentee companion or instrument, and the fact that he or she or the instrument assists but does not participate in the situation. As for the information structure, a curative phrase can occur in topic, in focus, in contrast topic, and in contrast focus. So really, really briefly, I have described the general features of the Mongolian curative marker GUI. And now let's dwell on the problems announced in the title of my talk. These are the problems I encountered when filling in the questionnaire. And actually, these are the problems we experience when describing the Mongolian curative marker GUI in typological perspective. So the first problem, and I think the biggest one, is the morphological properties of the curative marker and the level of its expression. In the questionnaire, we have the following options. The curative marker is used as a part of a word expressing absentee, and it's derivational. B as a part of a word expressing absentee, and it's inflectional. C as a part of a constituent, and it's an adposition phrase. D, it's used as a part of the same clause. E, it's used as part of an additional auxiliary clause. For Mongolian, in fact, options D and E are quite valid, but the constructions of these kinds are not basic. The same meaning can be expressed with less complicated constructions in which the curative marker GUI is just added to the absentee. So in fact, the options left for us are A, B, and C. And to choose one of them, we have to decide whether the combination absentee plus GUI is one word, then options A and B are left, or it is an adposition phrase, then we choose C. That is to say, in the first instance, we want to know if the curative marker GUI is a suffix or a postposition. I'll tell you right now that I've chosen option C. The main argument in favor of option C was that it was the fact that the absentee can add dependents. Though this decision is out of tune with the traditions of Mongolian grammar description, and if we want to be consistent, we'll have to declare all Mongolian case markers to be postpositions too. Well, another argument in favor of option C, and this argument is a little weaker, is that the curative marker GUI does not always comply with the vowel harmony, whereas most inflectional and derivational suffixes do. This feature of GUI has influenced the orthography. The morpheme GUI does not have any alternative spelling with the back vowel, like we could expect GUI, but there is no such thing. We have only GUI. Although Evgeny Afanasyevich Kuzmenkov gives the curative marker GUI as an example of pseudo violation of vowel harmony. He says that still, when adding case suffixes, GUI breaks the palatal vowel harmony, and after it, case suffixes with front vowels are added. So we can say that this feature of the curative marker GUI illustrates its transitory nature. If we consider other points of view, we have to mention the article written by Grashenkov, in which he argues that historically the curative marker in the Mongolian languages, in the Mongolic languages, was used as a case suffix and attributivizer. And in the course of time, in some contexts, former case suffixes started to function as the derivational suffix. According to Grashenkov, the curative marker GUI can be used either as a case suffix or as a derivational suffix or as a postposition. Previously, I think there were some examples where just a second. Yes, so I'm sorry, I just cannot find this example. There are some cases when the curative marker is used as a postposition. And as for finally, as for the examples where GUI is used as an inflectional suffix and derivational suffix, so here they are. Now, so let's have a look at these examples. So in the example with the inflectional suffix GUI, we have the words chamtai and chamgui. Here, chamtai has the commutative case marker, and chamgui has a curative marker on it. And when we look at the example of the use of derivational suffix gui, we can see the word huchgui, which means powerless or weak. So to say whether these examples comply with the definitions of inflection and derivation, let's have a look at the list of derivation and inflection properties made by Martin Haspelnath and Andreas Sims in their book Understanding Morphology. So if we follow their list, 3 property out of 7, so properties 7, 10, and 11 are irrelevant for Mongolian. Then property 8, less base allomorphic for inflection and more base allomorphic for derivation, shows the opposite results in Mongolian. All in all, in Mongolian, the only possible base allomorphy is appearance of the so-called hidden N. In a word that does have it, it appears only in genitive, dative, locative, and ablative cases. It doesn't appear when the curative marker GUI is added to nouns, for example, in the word modgui, which actually has that hidden N. It does not appear when GUI is added. It can appear in oblique case stems of some personal nouns, like we can see here tangui, bidangui, although such versions as bidgui and bidnargui are possible. Third-person pronouns and demonstrative pronouns from which they derived in the real colloquial language can have all the possible variations with the hidden N or without it. So they are given here. So this property is not really relevant to Mongolian either. If we consider properties 3, 5, and 6, there is no difference between inflectional and derivational suffix GUI according to these properties. I won't talk about all of them. Well, I wanted to say a couple of words about property 3, but I'm running out of time, so I'll skip it. And so only 4 properties out of 11 properties, 1, 2, 4, and 9, comply with Mongolian inflectional and derivational suffix GUI. As for property 1, an example which is called inflectional here, we can see inflection. The objects with you and without you are collocated with the predicate find, whereas in the other example, there's derivation. The use of the curative marker is not due to the syntax on the position of the adjective huchgui, this one here. There could be any other adjective, including those without the curative marker. So here you can see in one line with huchgui, the coordinate attribute suldoroi, which means weak, and it doesn't have the curative marker. Speaking about property 2, in this inflectional example, the word chamgui without you, containing the curative marker, is obviously opposed to the word chamtai with you, containing the commutative case marker. It can be interpreted as existence of a paradigm from which one has to choose only one form. In the derivational example, on the position of the word huchgui, there could be any other adjective formed by any other possible means, like the ones which follow suldoroi, they don't have any curative markers, as I already said. Concerning property 4, so property 4 says that in inflection there is same concept as base, and in derivation new concept appears. So there's inflection in this example and derivation in this example, because in the first example, the concept of the base was preserved the same, like in the other cases, u is always u, whether with the curative marker or not. Whereas in this derivational example, the concept power has been transformed into weak. Property 9 is considered here as the basic assumption rather than a property helping to tell inflection from derivation. I assume that I'm dealing with the derivational suffix GUI if a noun having added this suffix turns into a qualitative or into a qualitative adjective, which passes the test on graduality. If a noun having added the curative marker does not become a qualitative adjective, which can pass the test on graduality, then we're dealing with the inflectional suffix GUI. If an absentee can add dependents, then the morpheme GUI is a postposition. This again shows the intermediate position of the Mongolian curative marker in the typological classification. Another problem I would like to discuss, although I'm running out of time, sorry, is the compatibility of the curative marker GUI with adjectives, adverbs, and interrogative pronouns. If we give a formal answer to the question whether the curative marker GUI can combine with these word classes, we can say yes, they do combine with adjectives, adverbs, and interrogative pronouns. However, if we look closer at the examples, first of all, we should say that by no means all the words existing in these word classes combine with the curative marker GUI. As for the adjectives, I found some examples for the words good and bad, but these are either substantivized adjectives or a kind of ellipsis. You can see one example here. As for the adverbs, I should say that it's a kind of hard to tell Mongolian adverbs from Mongolian adjectives and Mongolian adjectives from Mongolian nouns. But nevertheless, there are still some words that look like adverbs and add the curative marker, but their range is quite limited. So here on this slide here are all the adverbs with the curative marker that I managed to find. As for the interrogative pronouns, the interrogative meaning preserves only in the combination of the pronouns hen, which means who, you, what, and al, which, with the curative marker and instrumental case suffix. So they preserve this interrogative meaning, but they can lose it. And then they mean without whoever it may be or without whatever it may be. So the former interrogative pronouns, which added the curative marker shown here, do not have that interrogative meaning at all. So formally, the curative marker GUI can combine with adjectives, adverbs, and interrogative pronouns, but not with all the representatives of these word classes. And sometimes this can cause some not quite predictable semantic changes. So these are the main things I wanted to say about the Mongolian curative marker GUI in typological perspective. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Anya. So we have 5 minutes for discussion. And Petya has a question and comment. Please.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Anna, for this very interesting talk. I have a question and a general comment regarding, well, a typological perspective. So my question is, could you please explain what you mean by when you say that something can add dependence and why you consider it diagnostic?
Well, sorry, due to some technological problems, I, for some reason, didn't add this example, but I mean that in the Mongolian language, absentees can add dependents, like, for example, you can say without a beard or beardless, and you can say without a long beard. And then just a word long will be added before the word beard. So I think that in such cases, if we have such a unit in front of the curative marker, then like curative marker refers to the whole unit, and that's why I think it's diagnostic.
Diagnostic of what?
Of a postposition, rather than.
Okay, but I beg your pardon, but this is certainly, this doesn't work. This is, well, this is, I'm sorry, but this is a clear methodological error. Consider Russian. You can have, Russian clearly has cases distinct from prepositions, and nouns with case markers can take dependents, like well, like anything, like dependents with other case markers. Я живу в доме отца. Отца is a dependent, not only the preposition, but also the case marker, the locative case marker, together with the singular, has scope over the whole noun phrase, however long it can be. The same in English. Big houses, the suffix, the plural suffix "s" has scope, semantic and syntactic scope over the whole noun phrase. So I'm afraid that this logic simply doesn't go through. And it doesn't go through for the whole Altaic family, for Turkic languages which have case markers that attach to nouns and undergo vowel harmony, but take scope over whole constituents. And this is actually what happens in most languages of the world, and there is no reason to think that because of the lack of case concord familiar from languages like Russian or some Australian languages, for instance, these languages don't have cases but have postpositions.
Oh, yes, thank you very much for your comment, but I actually didn't mean that. Yeah, and I meant that in Mongolian, there can be like 3 diversities of this curative marker, and it can be either postposition or a derivational suffix or inflectional suffix. So
okay, I'm sorry, there is one more question. Benjamin Brosio here, please.
Oh, well, yeah, there are so many points to mention. I could agree with Peter. At least we would have to make a distinction between postpositions like Yavachin told, told, with genitive case. I actually define postposition in Mongolian that it takes case, else I would speak of a conjunction. Yeah, then you would have 2 classes of postpositions suddenly. Other thing, what you had an example, Naguibol Huiting, and if I understand you correctly, you defined this as a curative case, right? Curative case, right?
Well, yes, but I can agree that there's a kind of ellipsis.
Well, no ellipsis, just predicative use, I would say. I mean, that would at least be my first interpretation of this example. So it would simply be a predicate with bol as a conjunction. If there's no sun, it's cold.
Yes.
So I'm not sure whether this example still says what you wanted it to say.
But, just this confusion appeared because in our questionnaire we included both the words with the curative marker used in the attributive position and as a predicate. So
okay,